April 30th, 2024. The Santiago Bernabeu was shaking. Real Madrid versus Bayern Munich. A Champions League semi-final. Millions watching around the world. And yet, one of the biggest football conversations that night wasn't about either team. It was about a 16-year-old kid from Barcelona, a player too young to legally drive in many countries, a player who had never reached his 17th birthday, a player already being compared to Lionel Messi. His name was Lamine Yamal. Now, football has seen wonderkids before. We've heard the hype around Freddie Adu. We've seen the excitement around Bojan Krkic. We've watched countless teenagers labeled as the next big thing. Most disappeared. Some became good players. Very few became legends. So when people started calling Lamine Yamal special, many fans rolled their eyes. Because football history teaches us one thing. Potential means nothing until it does. But here's the question. At what moment did football stop seeing Lamine Yamal as a talented kid and start seeing him as the future of the sport? The answer isn't as obvious as you think, because the signs had been there for years. And the scary part is, almost nobody noticed how quickly it was happening. To understand why Lamine Yamal feels different, we need to go back, way back. Before the Champions League nights, before the international tournaments, before the headlines. Born in 2007, Yamal entered Barcelona's famous La Masia Academy at an age when most children were still figuring out their favorite position. Even inside a system that produced legends like Messi, Xavi, Iniesta, and Busquets, coaches reportedly saw something unusual. Not just talent, control, decision-making, composure, the qualities that usually take years to develop. Most teenagers rely on speed, others rely on tricks. Yamal seemed to play with something much rarer, time. The game appeared slower around him, and when Barcelona entered one of the most difficult periods in modern club history, that ability suddenly became priceless. Financial problems, managerial pressure, an aging squad, expectations from one of football's biggest fan bases. Barcelona desperately needed hope. Then came April 29th, 2023. At just 15 years old, Lamine Yamal made his first team debut. Most players his age are trying to impress youth coaches. Yamal was stepping onto the pitch for Barcelona. The stakes couldn't have been higher, because Barcelona wasn't searching for another prospect. They were searching for their next era. And this is where things get interesting. The hype around young players usually comes from highlights, a flashy dribble, a viral goal, a social media clip. But the strongest argument for Lamine Yamal isn't his highlights. It's what happens between them. Watch his decision-making. Watch how rarely he forces actions. Watch how often he chooses the correct pass. Most people miss this because football culture celebrates spectacular moments. Managers don't. Elite managers care about repeatable decisions, and Yamal makes them constantly. Then came the international stage, UEFA, Euro 2024. Suddenly, the entire football world was watching. Veterans, former players, coaches, scouts, everyone. What stood out wasn't fearlessness, it was normality. Yamal didn't look like a teenager surviving elite football. He looked like a footballer who belonged there. Against experienced defenders, he demanded the ball. Under pressure, he kept making the right choices. In critical moments, he looked calm. That is exceptionally rare. History gives us useful comparisons. Wayne Rooney exploded onto the scene with power. Cristiano Ronaldo arrived with athleticism. Lionel Messi arrived with otherworldly dribbling. Lamine Yamal's defining trait may be something less obvious. Football intelligence. The ability to process situations faster than everyone else. The truth is, physical gifts can disappear. Pace declines, strength changes, but football intelligence ages differently. That's one reason many analysts believe Yamal's ceiling could be frighteningly high. And when you combine elite intelligence with technical brilliance, creativity, vision, and confidence, you start understanding why so many people believe football is witnessing something special, not hype, not marketing, something real. But before we crown anyone the future Ballon d'Or winner, we need to be careful. Football history is brutal. For every Messi, there are hundreds of players who look destined for greatness. Injuries, burnout, pressure, poor career decisions. The list is endless. And Yamal faces challenges that previous generations never experienced. Every match is analyzed, every mistake goes viral, every performance becomes a debate. The expectations are enormous. Some fans are already discussing Ballon d'Ors, others are predicting multiple Champions Leagues. At an age when most teenagers are worrying about school, that's dangerous, because development is rarely linear. Even the greatest players experience setbacks. And here's the scary part. The more extraordinary Yamal becomes, the harder it becomes to satisfy expectations. People stop comparing him to teenagers. They start comparing him to legends. That's an impossible standard, at least for now. Which is why the smartest approach may be patience. Not because Yamal lacks talent, but because talent alone has never guaranteed greatness. So, when exactly did football realize Lamine Yamal was different? Was it his Barcelona debut, his breakthrough performances in Spain, his moments on the international stage? Maybe. But in my opinion, the answer is bigger than any single match. Football realized Lamine Yamal was different when people stopped talking about his age. Think about it. The conversation changed. Fans no longer asked, how good can he become? They started asking, how far can he go? That's a completely different discussion, because once a player reaches that stage, potential is no longer the story. Legacy becomes the story. And that's where Lamine Yamal finds himself today. Not as the next wonderkid, not as the next prospect, but as one of football's most fascinating futures. Whether he becomes a legend, only time can answer. But one thing is already clear. Football isn't waiting for Lamine Yamal anymore. Football is already watching. If you enjoyed this documentary, subscribe for more deep football stories, legendary careers, and the moments that changed the game forever.